Okay.
Well, Veda, thanks for helping me with my project.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Veda, everyone. I work in the digital product and design space. Um, Still kind of new to the whole space exploration, but I'm excited to learn more.
But you have some friends that are
I
in
do.
space exploration.
I do. So my boyfriend works for SpaceX, and um, obviously all of his friends. So I have a little bit of knowledge and insight into that.
Do they talk a lot about what they do and what motivates them and things like that, or?
Um, so when they get home, not really, but from what I've gathered, is everyone at SpaceX, at least that I've met, is they're some of like the smartest and hardworking people that I've ever come across. And you can see that the people they hire have a real passion for space exploration and the Mars 2050 mission. So it's exciting.
And I heard that SpaceX people are expected to work so hard that there's this joke I heard. I wanted to ask you how true it might be, and
Yeah,
that
it's
is
pretty true.
if you if you don't show up to work on Saturday, don't bother coming in on Sunday.
I don't know how true that is, but so Zach, he actually is working 6 days a week now from I think it's yeah, it's 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. And I think most of the guys in the house have really crazy schedules and things vary day to day. So it's very volatile and dynamic, that environment.
Oh, so
They work you to the bone.
you're up there in McGregor right now?
Yeah, I'm in Waco right now.
Waco. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Wow. Um, well, did you know that NASA's planning to go back to the moon in 2024?
So I heard, but again, not wasn't too familiar with the plans.
And what do you think about it?
I think it's I think the last time we were on the moon was like in the 1970s. So it's been a while and it needs to come. I'm excited and through the grapevine I've heard that they contracted Dynetics and SpaceX as well as Blue Origin to help them on this 2024 mission. So it's exciting to see what's going to be coming up.
One of the things that they plan to do as part of the 2024 landing is actually ensure that there's a woman astronaut that sets foot on the moon
Hmm.
and be the first woman to land on the moon. I was wondering how that figured into your feelings about going back.
Yeah, working in tech, we have there's a huge there's a huge gap between the amount of women in the workforce versus the amount of men. And I think that ratio is echoed in so many different industries. And I'm so happy that it's been talked about in the past, I would say like 5, 6 years, it's been coming up. Um, and when I heard that there was supposed to be that female only mission, I think like a last year, which unfortunately, that was shut down. But I'm excited because we have so many capable women who are just as interested and excited for these same missions. And I think putting the first woman on Mars on the moon, um, it's going to do a lot for not only women in general, but just humanity in terms of knowing that everyone can achieve the same goals that we're setting for ourselves.
Yeah, historically, I think you're right. Tech's been mainly a male-dominated field, but I feel
Yeah.
like we've made a lot of progress. I work in the tech industry also. My boss is female. The head of our product engineering is female. The head of our L3 support's female. She has two managers that report to her that are female. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
so I definitely see a going through. But I also remember Microsoft used to have this big event called Tech Ed, where it was like their yearly
Mm-hmm.
conference. I think it's been replaced by like Microsoft Build or something like that now. And they used to have a party on Thursday night at some place, and this time it was at Orlando SeaWorld. And I distinctly remember like the bathroom, like the men's bathroom had like a long line that was way out, like, and like the women's bathroom, you could just run in and run out. It's just
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy. That never happens.
yeah, I know.
That never happens.
So I think we've moved past that, and it'll be a little bit more equal now.
I'm
But
glad. Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of interesting. But I talked to a lot of people about the 2024 moon landings,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, the majority of people seem to be like, hey, that's cool, let's go, what have you. But there are some people that are like, we've messed up the Earth. Why would we mess up the moon too? I was
Mm-hmm.
wondering what your thoughts were about that.
So I wouldn't say I'm too familiar with what our mission is once we get to the moon. For me, I think working in innovation, research, and exploration has always been a forefront of what I do at work and what people in innovation generally really strive for. And so I think people are, people can have their own opinions, but we are testing the fundamental principles of physics and chemistry and biology when we're stepping into space. And so when on the moon, who says we have to mess up the moon like we messed up the Earth? I mean, I completely understand that standpoint, but why not start with exploration and research and taking those principles back to Earth and studying what we've learned? That was the main thing that I understood from this mission is all we're trying to do is get a deeper understanding of the unknown and what's out there that's deeper and farther in. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
It is really kind of ironic that the same people that talk about messing up the moon probably have no trouble like clear cutting land and building a neighborhood.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's kind of fascinating. They probably have no trouble putting a trail through a national park so that they could go and see things just fine. So
Yeah.
it's like well, some other people also talk about having problems here on Earth, and that why are
Mm-hmm.
we spending I think it's going to be like 25 billion more than NASA's normal budget over the course of like 5 years to get us back to the
Yeah.
moon. Why are we spending all that on sending astronauts to the moon whenever, I mean, and this was even before the pandemic, but now the pandemic, I'm sure, just highlights more issues.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts there? I mean,
I do. I would say that before I initially started getting interested in this area, I think I would have been on the same page. I don't think it's crazy to say, look at this budget that we have towards something that many people don't think is completely necessary. I think that's totally valid. Um, and I think that comes from people not giving space exploration the same kind of status as we're doing with things like agriculture on Earth and tech and all that stuff. It's not in that same equal playing field as everything else. It's seen as very unnecessary. I think if people understood what the outcomes of space exploration would be and have a really good understanding of that, they might see a little bit of they might under they might understand a little bit more as to why it's so important. But I think education is key in terms of getting people to realize it's just as important as some of the fields that we have here and what runs our society here.
yeah, I wonder if, by trying to put like the first woman on the moon and like trying to beat the Chinese and things like that, if ultimately maybe we're kind of undermining that broader picture in some way. I was wondering what your thought might be there.
What do you mean by undermining ourselves?
In the sense that, exploration and trying to discover new things in itself is like ultimately the value that
Hmm.
going to the moon has.
Yeah.
But in trying to convince like additional people that we should go, we add in additional issues to try to kind of, ins-
Oh, yeah.
instead of selling them on sort of like that primary function,
Hmm.
we're saying, okay, I know you don't care anything about space, but we're going to create 1,000 jobs in your district, that type of thing.
Yeah. See, I think that's coming back to people being unaware of the the actual impact and the outcomes of this research. And just the mere fact that, exploration in and of itself, it is a field. And I think, especially in society now, people are so obsessed with wanting outcomes at the snap of your fingers. Well, that's not what exploration and research is. So when we're living in a society that is so, focused on getting the instant, something like space exploration, where we're not getting instantaneous value and outcomes, it's not going to be seen with with much favor. And so I think when people are what people like NASA, when they're saying, let's put the first woman on the moon, let's beat the Chinese, I think they're trying to gather hype around something that people necessarily wouldn't have hype over if it wasn't for these like additional causes. So I understand what you're saying by are we undermining ourselves? But I think they're doing what's necessary to reach a broader audience that necessarily wouldn't care if we weren't taking these steps.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, the NASA says that there are people in all 50 states working for contractors who are contributing to our next moon landing, which
Mm-hmm.
is great from a political standpoint, but you really wonder, the logistical cost of trying to spread out the work like that
Yeah,
might add a lot of inefficiencies.
yeah,
Um, Often always wondered about SpaceX too. They have the testing facility in McGregor, and
yeah.
then they build the rockets in Hawthorne,
Hawthorne.
California. And so I understand like they build the engine, they send it to McGregor, they test it, they send the engine back to Hawthorne, it gets integrated into the stage, then it gets sent back, and the whole thing gets tested again. It's just
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of logistical inefficiencies there. My background is in supply chain, so when I heard that, I was like, oh my god, what is this? Like, what is happening? Um, I can't speak too much about what future plans are for them and what like logistically that's going to look like. I do know there are talks about future plans and working those kinks out, but yeah, you're right. That is the current model of everything's built in Hawthorne and then transported all the way to McGregor, tested, sent back, and then brought back to McGregor. So it's highly inefficient, very time consuming, and I think is you know, a huge bottleneck in terms of getting projects out the door. So, and also what leads to these people having to work such long hours because the systems in and of itself are very inefficient.
and of course the Starship development in Boca Chica is sort of a new model.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah,
they they build the ship across the road and then they just transport it to the launch pad,
yeah,
a lot shorter than McGregor to Hawthorne.
yeah. And so a lot of people are now moving to Boca. Huge volumes have been transported there, and I think what Elon's plan is to make Boca a little bit more habitable because it's not the nicest place to live at the moment. But I know there are talks of building resort styles, hotels, and really pretty up the place to attract more talent.
Yeah, personally, I would love to be a part of that project someday. I just like, man, they're really gonna make it happen,
They
Take
are. It's
us,
going to happen.
uh, and I think it's I think people are incapable of understanding what a transformation is. I mean, it's like showing them a single person airplane and talking about the 747. It's like they just can't understand how you would
The
put like,
magnitude of it, yeah.
how would you put 300 people on there, and you need to have somebody serve drinks, and it's just like you need to have in-flight entertainment. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, you mentioned that you weren't really in favor of space exploration earlier, and that
Hmm.
you might have been like, hey, we really should focus on more immediate problems, and that
Yeah.
really it was as you learned more about the potential and what's going on that really changed your mind.
Hmm.
What are some lessons from your experience that we could build on to kind of go and try to reach more people, to try to make them more aware?
Yeah. And I would say that I probably wouldn't have changed my mind unless I had someone firsthand talk to me and tell me what the benefits were, because it's not something that I was seeking out to learn individually. In my head, I had my mind made up of, I think it's pretty useless. I don't see the immediate value of it. And it was only until after I met Zach and him and his friends explained the longevity of what they're trying to do, which is very interesting. And what got to me the most is global warming. It's 50 years from now, I would say 50 years ago, in the last 50 years, we have achieved globalization. And in the next 50 years, or so in the last 500 years, we achieved globalization. And in the next 500 years, due to globalization, I think we're going to be seeing this influx of our population influx. That paired with global warming, I think I read this awesome Neil deGrasse Tyson article, which said that we are going to be building vertically instead of horizontally. So people are going to be living deep in the earth or very high above it. So I think what really made me understand the potential of this project is the fact that like we have to take a look at what the current situation on earth is. And I think people forget that. I think we have so many naysayers and skeptics of global warming, but it's real and we're seeing the effects every single day, which is why I think space exploration and Elon's mission of trying to get on Mars by 2050 is so crucial, because we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 500 years. We can guess, we can assume, but I think preparing ourselves for what is to come, what is very well likely coming, is what he is trying to do. And by making Mars inhabitable, by making it inhabitable for us, and I don't know, that paired with the current situation, that's what got me really thinking that this is real and we need to explore different avenues on what to do if things kind of go sour in the next 500 years.
Yeah, it depends on how sour they go. I mean,
Exactly.
in some ways, it constantly is sour, not sour, and sour,
Yeah,
not sour. I mean,
I'd
like
agree.
this pandemic thing kind of came out of the whole blue, and the unemployment and the
Yeah, we
everything
hit
is
like 14%, 14.7% yesterday.
right. And people say that, expect something in the 20s. I haven't heard anybody say something in 30s, but it wouldn't be surprising.
It wouldn't, and because we don't know when the next wave is coming, because it much likely is. So
Did you hear about Bill Gates' 2015 TED Talk on the need to prepare for a pandemic?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, he gave a TED Talk. At that time, I think Zika was going around. Um,
Oh,
and also, he's like, previously we had SARS and we had like swine flu and
mhm.
several other things. I think, what was that? Middle East MERS, yeah, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. So there's been like several little flare-ups, but they didn't quite have the same reach as this disease did in terms of how easily it could be transmitted and people carrying it but not having any symptoms and all that. And you look at somebody like Bill Gates, who has sort of like the credibility, and he has the money, and he has the stage and everything, and you think, wow, if he couldn't like sound the alarm and get people motivated, what is there a hope for like anybody being able to do that? And just,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think, but see, I think it's because we haven't really had anything of this magnitude before. And I think now people will especially listen. This virus has affected every single person on the planet. There's no one that's being excluded, directly or indirectly. And so I think after, especially since this has happened, society is never going to be the same again. I think professionally, a lot more people are going to start working from home. I think across industry, we've learned that a lot of our work can be achieved from home. But aside from that, just in terms of how we're supporting each other and supporting industry, it's going to massively change. And I don't think people understood exactly how interwoven everyone was from the leisure industry to tech to anything. We're so interwoven with each other, and I don't think people understood how much we leaned on our neighbors and the people we worked with. I 100% think coming out of this, we're going to come out so much stronger and willing to help our neighbor. And that is, I'm trying to think of it in a positive way, but it is hard.
yeah, I mean, especially our healthcare workers, it's been really hard on them.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, they're expected to be on the front line and save people, but on the other hand, people are social distancing from them, and they're not getting the emotional and practical support that maybe they need.
Yeah.
I even heard of one case where like an ER doctor was in a custody battle for her child, and the other parent was saying, the child, it'd be unsafe for the child to stay with her because she's being exposed to COVID people all the time. And the initial ruling of the court was to agree with that. And I just can't imagine how devastating that would be for somebody.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. Zach's coworker, his boss, his wife just got pregnant, and because they're traveling to Boca and Hawthorne and traveling to all these places, he literally can't be in the same room as his wife anymore. So what Will has done is he takes one half of the house and then Emily takes the other half, and he literally can't see her anymore because he's scared of infecting her and the unborn baby. So it's really sad to see how it's affecting people.
yeah, that's really tough. I mean, especially if it's your first child, it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of unknown, scary situation. You need that support. So,
Yeah.
what are some things that can be done to sort of provide that in place of having like father and mother support each other? I mean, like, I guess, how are you all providing support to her?
Oh, so I don't know per se exactly how, like, the ins and outs of how they're navigating it. Um, if we're thinking, I'm sure she has the support of friends and family through like web chat and stuff, but Will is also on night shift, so that's making communication 10 times harder between the both of them. So it's not like they can both be in the same house at the same time. He's asleep when she's awake, and she's asleep when he's awake and at work. I would say I don't know how support is being provided to her, and it's really heartbreaking because it is her first baby, and she's having to kind of go with it kind of alone. And I know he's heartbroken that he can't necessarily be there for her in all the ways that he wants to be. But I don't know how she's being supported right now.
So Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they have kind of different motivations. I don't know if you
Yes, I know.
uh, what what's your perception of Jeff Bezos's motivation?
Um, honestly, I can't answer that. Zach and I have talked about this, and it's not something that I can really comment on right now.
Yeah, I know Elon and Jeff sometimes get after it on Twitter from time to time.
Yeah.
It's really kind of interesting. But the way that I describe it to other people is, Elon really wants to build a city on Mars,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeff really wants to create like the capability to move all the Earth harming activities off of Earth. Like the energy production and the um, manufacturing and mining, and kind of use space to protect the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and anyways, that's how I usually describe it to people. I guess we'll see how it all works out over time.
Yeah. The reason I can't talk about it is because um the information that the very little information that I have, it just I can't really contribute that to the conversation without kind of breaking someone's trust over here. So
Trust is key.
yeah,
Never break trust.
yeah.
So if space travel became safe and affordable, is it something that you would be interested in doing?
Me personally,
You personally?
yeah, and as going back to like everyone who working in innovation, first and foremost, our whole drive for work and what we do and our passion is exploration. It's learning and it's discovering new frontiers. So that's always been that's always been my goal in everything that I do. So if it became affordable and kind of even mainstream in a way, yeah, 100% I would. And we're seeing it become more mainstream. I don't know if you heard, but I think it's Tom Cruise who just signed on to film on the International Space Station. So he's going to be training like an astronaut to go and film in space. So we're seeing it become so much so widely it's becoming widely available. And we'll see what happens in the future, but it's definitely something that I'd want to try if time came.
The Tom Cruise thing I found to be exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My wife is a big Tom Cruise fan, so
Oh,
uh, so now she's suddenly more interested in space. So that's good.
well, that's a way to get people interested, right?
Of course, I wonder about how effective it would be just to send him, because
Yeah.
in first of all, I mean, in making a movie, you have like the film guy, and you have the sound
Hmm.
guy, and you have the director, and then in addition to that, uh, pretty much all the dramatic scenes with Tom, there's always somebody else, like a villain of some type. So I hope it's not like, um, what was that movie? Survivor or Exile, or where Tom Hanks is on the island and he has like the base, the volleyball.
Yes.
He's
Yeah, yeah. I forget what the name was. I know
Outcast. No, Castaway. Castaway.
Castaway. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. I hope it's not like that. I think that would be maybe a
I
little
don't
less
think it
inspiring.
is.
Yeah.
I think like with the money and the energy that production's going to be putting into this, I think we should have high hopes. I think you bring up a really good point because I don't know how exactly that filming is going to work with just him there. Um, and he's known for his action stunts, right? So capturing all of that is going to be really interesting.
And will you have to recruit like the other astronauts to be other characters? It's like,
Yeah.
they're like doing some type of zero-G martial arts type of maneuver. Solar panels flying off the space station.
It's going to be amazing to watch.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Veda, did you have any other comments that you'd like to make, or?
Not really. I was hoping Zach could come say hi, but I think he's still at work, unfortunately. So
Oh, maybe I can interview him sometime. I've been kind of staying away from space people to kind of get non-space views, but with this whole quarantine thing, I'm like, anybody that'll talk to me,
anybody, I'll talk to him. I think he'd really like it.
Yeah, I even interviewed like people at the Starbucks and at the airport, and on
You
the train,
did?
on the streets of Minneapolis. I actually interviewed a person on the streets of Minneapolis. He's like, "Well, what do I get out of it?" I'm like, "Well, what do you want to get out of it?" And he's like, "I like some fruit." I was like, "I could do that."
He just made you buy him fruit.
Yeah, I
Huh,
mean, I'm, he likes
that's
fruit.
nice.
I'm like, I like fruit
Yeah,
too. I can get you fruit.
that's great.
Yeah.
But no, Nathan, this was really like I learned a lot from this as well, and I'm constantly looking for more sources of information to learn more. And I think what you're doing is really awesome. I think you're building this amazing platform to kind of inform people of the current situation and what's to be expected, which I don't know too many people doing that. So I think kudos to you. This is really awesome.
I really appreciate that. And it's good for me too. I actually created this project because I work from home and
Mm,
I'm usually isolated and I don't see people that much from time to time. And it's
yeah.
like I wanted a project that would make me go out and talk to a person every day. And now with this COVID-19 thing, I'm like, anyway, we adapt.
Yeah, and that's good. Adaptability is always good.
Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day and look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get in touch with you, but when I'm back home.
Awesome.